Hey, gang, this episode of WTF is sponsored by Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com and type in WTF when you click the radio microphone to start a no-risk trial and get a $110 bonus offer. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. Do it up.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fucking ears? What the fuck nicks? What the fuckadelics? What the fucking Canadians? What the fuckaristas? I could go, oh man, I could go on forever, but I'm not. I feel like I should. I feel like I should read all of them or do all of them, but I can't remember all of them because this is a special day, but I'm not going to do that. Why is today special? Today is the 400th episode of WTF. 400. I've never done 400 anythings before. It's an amazing undertaking, an amazing accomplishment. 400 episodes of WTF, and this is the 400th one. Oh my God. Look, I wanted you to hear, I wanted to be in the garage. I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be, sort of in the element, but things didn't go that way. I'm not in the garage for my 400th show. I'm in New York City. I had no idea I was going to be in New York City. It was not the plan to be in New York City. A lot of things went down. Today on the show, on the 400th episode, Iggy Pop is here, and that is a landmark. Is that the word I want? I don't know what the word is, but I always wanted to interview Iggy Pop my whole life, ever since I became a fan of his. I was not a fan when I was in high school, but later I became completely engaged with Iggy Pop and the menace and the sexual insanity and the amazing rock and roll of the Stooges and of Iggy and his being. And I thought, man, I'd always like to talk to that guy. And when people would ask me, who do you want to interview? I would say, I want to interview Iggy Pop. And then that happened. But let me tell you what happened leading up to that. Let me try to tell you why I'm in New York City. I really wanted to be in my garage for the 400th. I really did. We'll get into it in a second. Let me just take a second to tell you that Comedy Central has launched an amazing free app in the iTunes store devoted to all things stand-up, my friends. With the CC Stand-Up app, you can watch hundreds of hours of stand-up comedy from both your longtime favorites and some up-and-comers. Many have been on this show. Discover some new favorites and use the full 3-hour program stream. That's a pretty good stream, 3 hours. You can also find some of my stand-up in there. And the best thing is, folks, it is free from Comedy Central, so I am not seeing a dime of that. But that's all right. It's okay. It's old stuff. It's been out there a while. I don't even know what they have on there. That's the weird thing about doing 400 episodes of WTF and having become known as an interview guy, having started humbly doing stand-up comedy, which I still do, which is why I am in New York City. I plan to go back to Los Angeles from Buffalo. I was just in Buffalo, New York. And I got to tell you, I had a great time in Buffalo, New York. They're a little down on themselves up there, and people are down on Buffalo. They think it's some decaying Rust Belt town or city. It may be that, but it is a pretty warm, beautiful place, very good people, some really shitty, great food, and Niagara Falls. And I got to tell you, man, I ate some chicken wings at the Source. I didn't go to the Anchor Bar. But I went to the Duff's, which I'm not going to get into an argument with anybody. The chicken wings are good. They're fine. But, the cat's out of the bag, okay? Anybody can get Frank's hot sauce. But I enjoyed the wings. I had beef on weck. I didn't know what that was. Weck is an abbreviation for some kind of bread. I went to what seemed to be a slightly comforting haunted house called Schwabel's. Yes, since 1837. It wouldn't kill him to update some of the decor, but the roast beef on the roll, awesome. Went to Ted's Hot Dogs, awesome. On the grill, all good. By the time I got to Anderson's Frozen Custard, I was so consumed with self-hatred that I don't know if they had really experienced somebody like me at Anderson's Frozen Custard in Buffalo, New York. I'm not sure they'd ever witnessed somebody waiting to order and looking up at the menu with nothing but oh, fuck this. Are you kidding me? With that face? Going up to that window and having a chipper ice cream server say, what can I get you? Can I help you? No, nothing here is going to help. It's barely going to taste good, even if it's amazing. It's not going to help. I'll have a caramel sundae. And then I'm coming back in an hour to discuss my shame. So I guess the point I want to make is that nothing has really changed that much for me as a person other than everything. But the basic wiring and the basic life is the same here at 400 episodes. I really appreciate the fact that so many people get so much out of this show. I really appreciate those of you who are listening to this part of the show right now. I'm trying not to have contempt with people, for people. I'm trying not to have Twitter fights with my friends that are entertaining but painful. But I don't think that I'm going to succeed at that. There's such a fine line between contempt and empathy. And I experienced that at Niagara Falls. I don't know if you've ever been to Niagara Falls, but it's spectacular. And by the way, I was staying at a hotel that I think really had the same personality as a heroin addict who no longer did heroin. Like, I was in that place, the Lafayette Hotel, and I'm like, this place was in bad shape at one time. I can feel it. I know they gutted it, they renovated it, but some things you can't get out. Something, I don't know. This hotel could relapse at any second. You just, you felt the ghosts in the hall. I just knew walking down the hall to my room that at some other point in time, some woman was running down that hall screaming, "He's got a gun! He's got a gun! He's going to kill me!" As strange, drugged out people just watch the drama unfold, don't want to get involved. But I went to Niagara Falls, and I got to tell you, the drive up there, not great. Niagara, the town, bad shape. I don't know if they do it on purpose so the falls are even more amazing than they could be, but I tell you, by the time you get to the falls, after you've driven through Niagara, you want to jump into them. And I've already got that thing. I drove up to the falls. There's these horrendous tourist shithole outposts of people selling stuff, several Indian food trucks. I don't know why. It was just horrendous. By the time I actually got to the water, I had such a contempt for humanity. Like, I felt like it was all a failure. Driving through Niagara, hope had left. If they could only channel some of that water that goes over those falls and irrigated some hope and light into Niagara, it would be amazing. But it's not. It's depressed. It's sad. Then waiting online with people to get tickets for things I don't need. I just want to go on the boat. I just want to look at the thing. I just want to look at the water going over. I was filled with contempt. I walked up to the water at the top of the falls, and I had to fight the urge to climb in. But that's just the way I am. There's always that thing pulling me towards that. If I were hanging off a cliff, I don't know. I think it would be easier to let go than to fight the fight to get back up. I don't know if I have the tragic persistence necessary to get to the end gracefully. I was waiting online with all these people, and then we went up to get our blue garbage bag ponchos that they hand out to everybody to go on the Maid of the Mist. And I'll tell you, man, being on that boat, with just a bunch of other people wearing blue garbage bag ponchos, it just was heartwarming. We're just people, and we're small people, and we're wearing blue garbage bag ponchos. And there are these amazing falls that are nothing but invigorating. The water just keeps coming. It's uplifting. Stood on that boat with my other fellow humans, our blue garbage bag ponchos, fighting the urge to applaud Niagara Falls. Just clap. It's amazing. It just keeps coming. It's never going to stop. It's beautiful. It's nature. It's uplifting. It was great. I really think that blue garbage bag ponchos are the great equalizer. Everybody is equal in a blue garbage bag poncho. Just small humans looking silly, barely protected against the elements. Whenever there's a problem between peoples, someone should show up with some blue garbage bag ponchos. That's what I learned at Niagara Falls. That's what I learned. Had a good time in Buffalo. Almost felt like moving there. I don't know what I'd do there. I just wanted to do my part, maybe to help out, bring a little business in. I could be doing this anywhere. So why am I in New York City? Why? Because when I got to the Buffalo airport, I had my flight all set up. I was going to fly out to Los Angeles on Sunday, record this monologue for my 400th episode in my garage at the Source, and then fly back out here on Tuesday to do the David Letterman show. I'm going to be sitting down next to David on the couch, something I've never done before. I hope it happens. You never know when you're going to get bumped, but that was a career goal. So I'm on the precipice. To me, that's winning. That's all I ever wanted to do in my life, is sit in that chair next to that guy. And it's going to happen on Wednesday because of this podcast. Seriously. Because of this podcast. I'm going to sit next to Letterman and we're going to have a conversation and hopefully I'll be funny. It's going to be hard. Love that guy. I've always loved that guy. Been with him a long time. So I get to the airport Sunday morning. I'm getting ready to get on my little plane and there's mechanical problems. And I just knew it. Some days just aren't going to fucking work out, man. It was just not going to happen. So I'm like, why don't I just go to New York? Because I want to see my girlfriend. I want to record this in my garage. But you got to record. Now it's not going to happen, dude. You've got to process this. It's not going to happen. You got to record it outside. You got to find a bathroom. You got to do something. There was an urgency to it. The entire day revolved around getting this monologue done. I didn't give a fuck about anything else. And I started to sort of rationalize it like, well, it was supposed to be a special day. I mean, I feel great about the podcast, but I wanted to record it in my garage. But now what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, maybe you should fly to Detroit. You got 5 hours there, man. Iggy's from Detroit. It will be thematically appropriate. Maybe get out into the city and record the monologue in Detroit on the streets. On the streets where the MC5 and Iggy Pop ran around. That was my plan. I was like, I didn't give a shit. And then I'm like, what if I don't have Wi-Fi that's good enough to get this there? All I wanted to do was get this done. This was the most important thing. And it still is the most important thing, doing this podcast. But I got down to New York, and I think I got the flu. I had a fever on top of everything else, but the urgency was overbearing. All I cared about was getting this monologue out. All I care about is this podcast. This is my 400th episode. Iggy Pop is here. He's in the garage. It's going to happen in just a few minutes. I was reading over an old bio that I wrote, long before the podcast. I actually should change this bio. I don't even know why it's still on my website. But it says, since I was 11, being a stand-up comic is all I ever wanted to be. I actually thought it was a noble profession. I remember being a kid and watching Rickles and Hackett on the tube, reading the My Favorite Jokes column at the back of Parade magazine every Sunday, listening to Carlin, Pryor, Cheech and Chong records with my little brother, going to Woody Allen movies and staying up late on Saturdays to see the first season of SNL. To me, being a comic meant to be autonomous, angry, truthful, and funny. It meant being alive and present in the moment. It meant having the freedom to figure out and then be who I am in the purest way and do it shamelessly in front of people, impose it on them, and try to blow some minds in the process. It meant avoiding the soul death of the day job. Being a comic entitled me to live like a fucking gypsy until something clicked. And if it didn't, who knows? I've been fortunate enough to have a few dispersed clicks throughout what I guess has been a showbiz career of relative obscurity, but with a real freedom from the bondage of mediocrity. I have a hard time describing what I do or what I am up there on stage. I've been called neurotic, a storyteller, heady, cerebral, angry, brilliant, bad, a problem, a cultural critic, a satirist, fucking funny, an important voice, etc. Recently, a young woman who had just seen me came out onto the street, came up to me, excited, and said, "You were really great. You're like Woody Allen." Of course, I found a way to make that a negative and said, "Really? I think I'm a little angrier than Woody Allen." In response, she said, "You're like an Iggy Pop Woody Allen." I like that. I think if that helps you understand what I do, it's a reasonable description of where I am lately. That's my bio that I wrote probably 10 years ago or more. And, my life's a lot different. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm still an Iggy Pop Woody Allen. But all I know is that, last night I was in Buffalo, putting it out there for 65 people, second show. Not a huge crowd, but a great crowd. I connected. There were moments on the other shows where I didn't. I'm actually a little drained. I put a lot of myself out there, and there was moments in the Friday night show where I just stopped, and I was like, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of me. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it all. But that last show, I got it back. I don't know, man. But I'm fucking thrilled and amazed that everything that's happened has happened. And this is the 400th episode, and my guest is Iggy Pop. I was very nervous about Iggy coming over. I was waiting for them. It was late. At first, one limo drives up, pulls up onto the, up in front of my house. A publicist gets out. And I show her where it's going to go down. She's got her heels on. She's very put together. And I say to her, I said, does he talk? Does he talk? I don't know anything about him. Where's he at? And she goes, oh, yeah, he loves to talk. And I'm like, really? I had no idea what to expect. It's Iggy Pop. I was more nervous about Iggy than anything, because how do you wrap your brain around Iggy Pop? Iggy Pop, the performer, Iggy Pop, the guy, Iggy Pop, the music. How do you wrap your brain around that? Guy means a lot to me. Then another limo pulls up, and Iggy's road manager gets out. Iggy's girlfriend gets out. She's like 7 feet tall. And then Iggy's in the car. I walk up to the car door. He's about to get out of the car. I go, how you doing, Iggy? Do you need anything? And he goes, I need to refresh. And I'm like, you need to refresh? What does that mean? Do you need coffee? Yes, I need coffee. A black coffee would be great. Okay. Do you need water? Yes, water would be great. Is there anything I can do for you? He goes, I just need to, I don't know, get refreshed. And I'm like, okay, man. All right. So we walk out back. We walk onto my deck, and Iggy is there. His crew is sat down at the table back there, his girlfriend, the road manager, the publicist. And Iggy's just walking around the deck with his arms spread out, breathing, looking at the trees back there, looking at the hill. He's like, this is great. This is great. And then within 3 minutes of being on my deck, the shirt comes off. Iggy Pop takes his shirt off on my deck. Now, anybody else, you'd be like, now this is odd. But no, not in this situation. This is Iggy. Now that's Iggy. And then I go, you ready, man? He goes, yeah. And so we went into the garage. Shirtless Iggy sat across from me, and we had this conversation. There was a couple moments where he kind of tweaked his nipples a little bit. I don't know why. He's kind of pulling at him, hair or something. You know, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was a little disconcerting. I didn't bring it up because it's Iggy. So let's go now to my garage where I talk to Iggy Pop. Our sponsor today on this 400th episode is Stamps.com, and I want to take a second to thank Stamps.com because they took a chance on us a few hundred episodes ago. We were the first podcast that they ever sponsored, and we were happy to have them on board because they have a good product. With Stamps.com, you get all the services of the post office right from your desk. Use your own computer to buy and print official U.S. postage for any envelope, any package, any class of mail. Track your packages, send shipment notifications, get free supplies delivered to you, and more. Stamps.com took a chance on us, and lots of WTF listeners took a chance on Stamps.com, and I'm happy to say it's been great for everyone. Right now, use my promo code WTF for this special offer. Start a no-risk trial with a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. Don't wait, people. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Enter WTF. Looking forward to talking to you.
Oh, cool.
Like, you know, people ask me, you know, who are my dream guests, and I keep saying Iggy Pop. And here you are in my garage.
Right, cool.
And a lot of people are, it was funny because I said I was going to talk to you today, and 3 people said, you think you'll be wearing a shirt or no shirt?
Oh, yeah, well, I killed the shirt, man.
No shirt, right away.
Well, I'm more comfortable, you know.
It's great. It's not going to come over across on the radio, but I want people to know. So you're living in Florida, and I know that because I think right when you moved there. When did you move there?
98.
I was down there like in 2004 or something in Fort Lauderdale, and I was down there with my ex-wife, and you were playing someplace, and it just got announced. It was like 400 people.
Yeah, it was the Culture Room.
Yeah, so you remember that gig?
Yeah, because it's in a little strip mall.
Right.
And it's got a purple script sign
right.
that says Culture Room.
What was that gig? Where'd that come from?
Well, that's sort of a famous, infamous stop for hard rock and metal bands that can't play anywhere else in southern Florida because everybody's into either like Andy Williams or Julio Iglesias or Enrique or whatever it is. You know? Yeah.
And who are those dudes? Because I just remember like I'd never seen him before, and I was a big fan. I'm like, what's this going to be? It was fucking nuts, man.
The dudes in the band at the time, it was this guy named Whitey Kirst.
Right, Whitey Kirst.
Whitey Kirst.
And that Marshall Stack or whatever the hell he had.
Yeah. He also goes, his alias is Whitey Christ.
Right.
And
I was amazed, man. That guy could fucking play.
He's like a metal a metalhead, satanic, sweetheart, good guy, fighting, fucking,
Right.
don't tell me what to do,
Right.
Black Death vodka,
Yeah.
3 packs of cigarettes
Right.
guy.
So is he still around? Or?
Well, I'm working with the original Stooges now.
I know that. I know that.
We stay in touch. He'll send me a text like, what are you doing?
That's it, right?
Yeah.
Still alive.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, like, what was the like? I want to do some backstory,
Yeah, sure.
a little bit. When you grew up, what was your family situation like?
I had a real super responsible, completely together mother and father. Never a drink in the house, never a curse word, never an argument. We lived, the 3 of us, in a small trailer home. The trailers were really small to start with, and they got bigger till the one when I graduated high school, it was 500 square feet.
Right.
So that's like a studio. But we all lived, we were like Japanese people in a way. It causes a tension that I didn't even realize, but later it was helping create me. But we lived by the side of the road, as most trailer parks are, out by a cornfield.
In Michigan.
But my father had gone to school on the GI Bill.
Yeah.
So he thought it was important to give me a good education. So we were within the Ann Arbor School District, which is a very, very fine secondary system run by the University of Michigan.
And
there I met like the son of the president of Ford Motor Company.
Oh,
and,
really?
The McNamara relatives.
Oh, really?
When he was Secretary of Defense, I was graduating high school, so there was all that around.
A lot of power, a lot of money.
A lot of power and money, and I started playing drums in a little high school band, siphoning off drips of that power and money. And we go out on the weekend in 1964 and make $250 each.
Do you know what you were playing? Do you remember?
Yeah, sure. We were playing "You Really Got Me," and then Louie, and there was one the frat boys liked called "Hi Ho Silver." It had dirty words, see that girl with it. It gets dirtier, and keg parties, things like that. And then we do some Beatles and some Ray Charles, like that.
Yeah.
And it sort of grew from there. I did that for a while, and it was just an awful lot of fun. And we got a job in a teen club for the summer in Harbor Springs, Michigan.
And that's where they book you out for the whole once
for
a
the
week?
whole summer. We stayed. You boys can just bunk here. We stayed in a log cabin with cold running water and bare mattresses, and we each got
bunk beds.
Yeah, $55 a week.
Yeah.
To play 5 sets a night in this club, but like the Four Tops came through, Shangri-La's came through, the Crystals, Louie, what are their names? Kingsmen,
yeah.
Bobby Goldsboro. Oh. Yeah, everybody came through, and half of them didn't have a drummer. So I would drum for them, and I learned a lot.
They would play at the teen club.
Yeah,
on like a caravan.
Yeah, their avaricious and crooked record company owners would send them on these bizarre tours.
Every night, another teen club.
Yeah, it was called the Ponytail, and it was Cherry Cokes were the strongest drink.
Sure, yeah.
And the kids were upscale. These are like the daughter of the Reynolds, the son Ricky DuPont would hang
DuPont,
out.
Reynolds, aluminum foil, and chemicals, and
those people still keep summer homes up in that area. But Mike, what's his name? The guy Fahrenheit. He hates Bush, the filmmaker.
Oh, Michael Moore. Yeah.
Michael Moore has a place up there.
So did you feel like because your dad? What did your dad do?
My dad was an English teacher, high school level.
Did you feel like some tension, some resentment building towards the upper class, and were you starting to get some fury at all?
I had some fury, yeah. I had some fury. The first song I ever wrote was about there was an upper class kid.
Yeah.
I used to be friends with his his sister.
Yeah.
And he gave me Tude.
Yeah.
And I remember I wrote a little. It was 4 lines. It was called "Why Do You Hate Me?"
Yeah.
And it was "Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me like you do? Someday I'll have the stuff and I'm gonna come after you."
Yeah.
And that was, there was no music to that one. It was just this little poem I wrote. You know,
because you could feel it building. Right?
I felt it building. Yeah, and. You know, I tried to, the other thing I felt building was the euphoria and the freedom of that summer. Suddenly I was a professional musician, free by day, worked up all night, that sort of thing, and it felt great, and I started getting wild, had my first DUI, got the band fired, you know, all that sort of thing.
How'd you get the band fired? From the teen club? Or
the
from
DUI, it didn't fit the image.
Sure,
so
kid's no good.
So I thought, I don't care, that guy's a hick anyway, I'll promote my own show. So I found some guy who was this typical an area manager, not unlike Lou Pearlman, the kind of manager that really likes young guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Boys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I found him, and he helped me. Yes, I can help you. You know,
just come
we'll
over.
rent a warehouse. Yeah. But we did. You know, so I did that, and I tried to go back to school for the first semester of university the next year, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I got in school, and God, the professors all had a stick up their ass, and they, you know, nobody communicated. There were 30,000, there were herds of people. I liked a couple of the classes. I had Asian studies. I liked that. I really liked social anth. You know, especially reading about the Stone Age behavior.
Sure.
Hey, this is for me, you know, right?
Time to get primitive.
Yeah. So I just decided to leave. There was a blues band on campus, older guys, sophisticated relative to me, 25-year-old dropouts, you know. I think one of them, his claim to fame was that he'd hitchhiked with Bob Dylan, or so, you know. So I told my dad, I was living at home, commuting to university at the time, and I told my dad, well, I'm going to go be a professional musician. And my father was a very responsible, earnest man who, you know, like a lot of guys right around that World War II period that went out and set things up for
the family.
For more dubious guys like you and me.
Right.
They went out and, you know, when he was 20-something and he had his dreams, it was like, no, time to go fight Hitler.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when that's done, no, you've got a kid.
Right.
you know, bongity bong. So he was, I think there was something he had to set aside and instead be a good dad. So he stood in the door of our trailer, and he's a big man and a much better fighter. And he said, "You're going to have to push me out of this door." And so I took a deep breath and got ready to get, you know, this is going to hurt, you know. And then I made 2 steps, and he backed away. Of course, he's a nice person, you know. So
did it break his heart somehow?
I think I really put the 2 of them. I put them through. Come on, they were Iggy Pop's parents in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you know.
And you're the only son.
Yeah, I was the only son. I went and played a concert at his high school, and I was hanging out with Nico at the time, and she was.
Well, she was hanging out with you guys.
She was hanging out in Michigan, right? Hello, I come to Michigan with you, and I think you are much better than Lou anyway. So,
but this was, you're already with the Stooges?
I was with the Stooges by that time, and
you're playing a high school gig.
I played
Nico's hanging out?
And Nico's hanging out. Yeah, Nico is like that.
How the fuck did she find you?
She found me when we went to New York to record, and John Cale was hired to produce us. The first album.
Right. Yeah.
So the 2 of them, he started inviting her to the sessions.
Yeah.
And they'd sit there. It was like the Addams Family. Yeah. He had have you ever seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls?
Yeah.
He had a cape like Z-Man. remember he had this cape that he wore, black with a purple satin lining, and she would sit there knitting.
Oh, my God.
While we're going, dun, 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 you know.
It's hilarious because he was here. He came over.
Really?
And he was wearing athletic shorts.
Well,
that's how things have changed.
Yeah,
he's sitting there wearing athletic shorts and a sweat jacket.
Okay.
And you're sitting there with no shirt on. It's amazing how things change.
He's a beautiful musician. He played viola on
right.
our first album. You know, it's funny. There's a song 8 minutes long on there that's just a.
You Will Fall. Is it
We Will Fall?
Yeah.
It's a sort of a. We tried to adapt a Hindu chant.
Right.
And people just block it out. You know, when you hear about the group, you never hear about that. You just hear about the teen angst of nothing to do. But we did that too, and he played viola.
Yeah, it had sort of like almost a dirge kind of flow to it.
Yes, it did.
And I asked him about you guys, and because it's always in my mind as a producer, I'm like, well, what did you bring to that Stooges recording? And he's like, they were fully loaded. That guy had nothing.
Well, we were fully loaded, but what he brought that was the audience.
Right.
We need an audience.
Yeah.
And he. You know, if it had just been some engineer dude sitting there, right, stiffy,
right,
you know,
yeah.
But he had presence, and there was a point where they were trying to do tracks, and I was just sitting there while they did the tracks, and he said, "You need to dance around. They play different when you dance around." And that's true, because that's really how how we got our style. We were trying to find a style for about a year.
Yeah.
One day I just got frustrated and angry, and I started jumping up and down and dancing in the rehearsal room. And the group were all embarrassed for me, and they kind of like looked down, you know, like, we don't want to look, you know, like, we want to look, but we don't want to look. What's he doing? Yeah, this isn't cool. Right, exactly. Because they all just wanted to be rock stars, you know. Yeah. And up rose the energy changed. You know, so he spotted that in the studio. So
they were almost fighting your awkward jerking around.
Yeah,
with like, we can still be cool even if he's going to do that.
Something's going on in the room. It's really weird, and this is weird, but maybe it's kind of cool or something. You know, I don't know what they thought.
Well, that's interesting because like I don't think people realize the power of a front man all the time, and what you have to do to lead a band. Because you're the guy up there, and the energy's got to move through you.
The energy's got to move through you, and then go out.
Right.
Make it accessible for the other people in the room to receive it.
So early on, how do you end up? Okay, so you record the first Stooges album, and then you go back and play a high school in Michigan.
Yeah, sure. We were playing a lot. We played. Don was one of my producers later, and we played his high school too.
As a goof, or because you needed a gig?
No, that was just in Michigan at that time. We had a kind of fully fledged, kind of a gig chain, a food chain.
Right.
You had a psychedelic ballroom, the Grandee. There was a string of teen clubs in the upscale suburbs called the Hideouts.
Right.
Then you had gigs around the campus that were high exposure but never paid. Then there was the MC5, who had these hard rock benefit gigs also.
Well, what was the story with that? Because there's the whole Detroit sound, and that comes up through the Motown and Mitch Ryder and the White Soul, and then the MC5. I mean, what was the event? And I know you've talked about it before, that made you realize that you could get out from behind the drums and fucking push.
Well, there wasn't. It was more that I had to. I was in the Prime Movers, and I was sick of looking at this singer's skinny little ass moving out of time. I was always cueing him where the one was, and I thought, this is not a future for me. I need to. I thought I could write.
Yeah.
And I smoked a big joint, and then I really thought I could write.
Yeah.
And went from there. And then when I actually wanted to start doing that, I tried to get up and sing a blues song in front of my friends in a bar. And it was horrible, and they were embarrassed. I stood there posed, and I sang, "Rock me, baby."
Rock me all night long?
Yeah.
So you went with Muddy Waters.
It was very bad. Well, B.B. King or...
Yeah. But you were a blues guy?
I'd been playing in a blues band at that time.
And you love the blues? Or you
I still do, and my whole idea with the Stooges was, I know these juvenile delinquents.
Yeah.
They have charisma, and they're the only people primitive enough to follow me.
Right.
So I could create a juvenile blues.
Like that was modern juvenile.
Yeah,
blues,
exactly.
Just raw.
I mean, look, Eddie Cochran had thought along similar lines. This is not totally a new idea, but
I Fought the Law.
In a certain way, And, even Summertime Blues, where he's got to work and he'd rather be outdoors.
Okay,
and all that,
I get it, yeah.
So, but we took it more sullen, more picky, more like what Howlin' Wolf would sing about.
Right. Did you ever see him?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Sure, I did. He was very old by the time I saw him.
I got that picture right there.
Oh, it's beautiful.
When he's on the floor just doing it.
I never knew that. I just read a biography of him that he did a lot of the things I did at the beginning with, theatricalizing his dick and crawling like a snake on the floor. And I didn't know. When I saw him, he was very, very old, and he just stood there in the middle of a bunch of white kids. And, man, it was like...
electric, right?
Yeah, it was better than Jurassic Park. I'll tell you. It was like his hands are very, very... It's like they seem to be a foot long.
Right, he was a big guy, right?
Very, very big guy, and he had a lot of presence, and he played a guitar sort of like the way that Ike Turner plays a guitar. Like, at first you're going, this guy can't play a fucking guitar. Right. And then you listen back 20 years later and you realize, I never heard anybody play a guitar that it sounded as down. As, you got
a deep
that.
thing out of it.
Yeah. And I loved hearing him on the Viagra ad, It's
sort of sad,
right? It sounds great. Yeah, but I think it's great. It's just great to hear him,
Yeah.
And that's Hubert Sumlin on the
He
guitar.
just passed away. Great. Those riffs. Hubert was great. Yeah, they put out a solo album. Who Jimmy Favino and those guys put out that stuff. Nothing sounds like him.
I loved that he could beat up his band, too. And that's one of my big... sort of failings. I can't beat up the band.
He beat up his band?
Yeah, all the time. You read in his biography, they'd be out on the road and somebody'd do something to irritate him. He'd say, pull the car over. And he'd say, get out of the car. You fired, motherfucker. And we're to throw you out. And then the guy would somebody would hit him in the head, and then he'd take the guy and literally pound him into a bloody pulp. It's like the drummer or something, and then throw him by the side of the road. And I don't know. Sometimes it's all you could do with these guys, is that would work.
So you saw these old blues cats, and you saw the MC5. You spent time with the MC5.
A lot of time.
And
with them.
And you saw the Doors early on.
I saw the Doors.
I know I've read that story before, but the way they characterize it, like in Leggs's books and in some of the other press, is that was some sort of pivotal moment for you.
It was a pivotal moment, both because at that time, the Doors probably sounded great in a little shitheel club on the Sunset Strip for a bunch of people from L.A. that don't know what the fuck is what the fuck.
Right.
With the flowers in their hair or whatever, and, a deal in their back pocket or whatever. But they were now, I saw them at a homecoming dance in a Midwestern field house for 5,000 football players at their dates, right? And the dude is loaded on acid, like the eyes are just all pupil, right?
And he comes out and he sings every song like this in this voice. Show me the way.
And he won't sing right,
Yeah.
And the band sounded wimpy.
Right.
In other words, because the beauty of their sound is that the drummer has a jazz approach.
Right.
Everything's quiet, so the music can come out.
Right.
But let's face it, the dumbing down of wonderful blues by the descendants of our slaves into rock.
Right.
Has sort of that. It's sort of like putting Spanx on the music, and everything. It just gets simpler, and more compressing. So people didn't know how to react to that, and the band sort of sounded ultra loose. And that made it worse. I mean, at least if there had been a power riff going on while this guy...
Someone could have rocked to it a little bit.
So there was nothing, and this guy's going... and he's making these gestures, these weird gestures, and he's got a little leatherette outfit, and the people started getting angry.
Yeah.
and started bum rushing the stage. You know?
Really?
Yeah, it was only. I love these stages. It was like an 18-inch stage, no barrier.
Right.
You know,
so he's right there on the floor with everybody.
He's right there. So they pulled the gig, but I loved the gig, you know, and I thought, on the other hand, I thought, well, gee, if they can do that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Did you love his commitment to fucking with them? Like, did it become...
I didn't mind that. Maybe that went in the back of my head.
Right.
I just thought, wow, cool-looking cat. You know, I'll bet he gets a lot of blankety-blank, you know. And I was there. I was there with some blankety-blank and actually had an orgasm while they did that.
Really?
Yes, yeah. Well, with her help, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't like, no.
I've tried to do that. It's very hard to just do a mental orgasm.
You know, yeah, right. So, you know, it was all in all, it was an interesting show, you know.
And then what was your relationship with the MC5? Because they were they had a commune, didn't they? And
they had started out as, look, there were a whole lot of guys around Detroit who were the kind of inheritors of the Mitch Ryder, Mitch and Jimmy McCarty and Johnny Badjanak, who still play great, were the kind of the epitome of downriver tough Detroit rock, really heavily informed by fine blues country blues and fine folk blues and black music too. They had that covered. And there were tons of guys around. There were bands called the Lords, and Steve Hunter was there. And the five were guys like that. And then they got this manager who was like, you know, he'd done a little time. And learned about some jazz and revolutionary poetry in the joint, and came out and hey, sort of like a kinder, gentler Manson kind of thing, right? Yeah. All right, I'll get into this free love, but in a really macho way. So they had this commune. Apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently when I was a drummer, they tried to recruit me, and I just don't remember because my mind has blanks, you know.
You're probably lucky that they didn't.
Yeah, but I knew them, and we sort of took a couple of steps to see if we could get to be one of their regular opening acts.
Right.
And they were very welcoming to us. I think we were good for them. We helped provide a little dimension to what they did. And we'd go play the basement of a church with them for nothing, or we'd go play the psychedelic ballroom, and people would see us that wouldn't otherwise. And we'd get $50.
Yeah. And did it influence you at all? Like, it was Sonic Smith's guitar playing in that drive?
Yeah, they were a big influence, and especially... There was one really cold night in Michigan, and we had all gotten into the car, and we were going to drive up to Detroit and visit them. And by the time snow was blowing sideways, and they had an old meat locker on Woodward that they rehearsed in with one of the big, thick door to keep the meat cold.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get in, and they couldn't hear us, but we stood there freezing in the cold, and when you heard it through the door, then I figured out,
it's cutting through the door.
This is what they're doing.
Yeah.
You could hear it in a way you couldn't when it was echoing and blasting and
what was it? The drum sound? Or
it was certain rhythmic choices in the guitar approach. They were doing Kick Out the Jams.
Right.
And the emphasis on that is actually taken from Latin music.
Right.
But you wouldn't think that.
It's on the 3 instead of the 4 or something?
Right. And so it not coincidentally resembles on the Stooges' Funhouse album, dun 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 dun. I'm loose.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So we took a lot of that, and also the fact that I was starting to go nuts for James Brown. Those were the years when finally James Brown was breaking through to radio that white people listened to. And I'm hearing this shit, and I'm like, what? The space, the precision, the syncopation. It's just fantastic.
Right.
And they could play a couple James Brown songs. And I thought, well, there's no way Stooges are not going to learn a James Brown song, but we could do stuff like that.
Right.
So I was listening closely to their templates.
Yeah, yeah.
I Want You Right Now by the MC5 closely. We later did Real Cool Time, which closely resembles, but it's a little different feel.
And it's also a little more stripped down.
Yes, we stripped it down. But they were just great, and I could always go. They moved to Ann Arbor, and even when they lived in Detroit, I could go and just crash in their house for a couple weeks, and their wives would sew my pants. Or like when they lived in Ann Arbor, if I was really hungry, I would sneak in the back of their house and make a peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Shit like a den house.
Yes, it was like a den house.
Now, do you even now? Do you have a relationship with Wayne Kramer?
Yes, I do. I really, you gotta. Wayne is just, I like Wayne, and he's a trip. Yeah.
But you guys survived. Is there some part of that where you're like, how you doing? Yeah, we're still alive.
Yes, there is that, and it's sort of like, how you doing? You know what? You're still shit. He'll kind of. There's always this little tone in his voice. I know you're still shit. I mean, not really,
sure.
But he's cool. But he lets you know.
Where'd you meet the Ashton brothers? I mean, was that high school stuff or like?
That was hanging. They went to my high school. Ron used to walk in the back door.
Yeah.
The mom would drop him off, and then he walk through the school and walk out the other door. So that was that. And he later, they gave him a diploma somehow. I think Scott made it for a couple days in 10th grade, and that was about it. I don't think he actually bothered with that.
Right.
So, I met him, I was working right in the middle of the campus on a key campus corner. In any state university, you usually used to have a record store.
Right.
So I worked at the record store, discount records, to help pay bills while I was getting my various drumming careers going.
Yeah.
And their sister would come in to listen to the news hit singles.
Right.
And
this is in the mid-'60s, early 60s?
1966, 67. And
a lot of good music happening.
Yeah. Scott and his friends Dave Alexander and their friend Roy would stand in front of the drugstore, staring, making sullen faces. They were what you call townies.
Sure.
Yeah, they were
doing the James Dean thing.
That's it. They were doing the James Dean in these tight pants. And Scott would bug me, why don't you teach me to play some drums?
Yeah.
And I taught him to play. I was a teenager. And Ron was sort of this guy. He was like one of the first guys in town with long hair.
Right.
And he would come around once in a while. I sort of knew him, he knew me, and I was interested in other musicians. So it was kind of like that.
What was he listening to? Because somehow that the guitar sound on those Stooges records is singular.
Yeah, I think the reason it's singular is because he'd played bass for so long. He never thought about playing a guitar till I put it in his hand. When we started the group, I tried singing it, writing it, and playing it with the two brothers as a rhythm section. I realized I did not have the command or finesse to lead a group instrumentally, so I gave him a guitar one day. So the first two albums, those are heavy gauge strings because he was so used to playing the bass.
Right.
Now most guitar players, they want to show off, so they use these incredibly light gauge
like nines.
strings.
Yeah.
Also, that also causes problems when you want to record it because the sound tends to muddy, things go out of tune.
Right.
But those big strings,
piano wire,
gave. Actually, the only other people I know who always played the big strings are all the old black players. And whenever I would play with an old blues guy, the effing string is like an inch and a half off the guitar. The guitar is from Taiwan or somewhere, right? And it doesn't bother the guy because he's got killer fingers,
monster hands, and then you go deep with the sound. The sound is, if you pull it out, it's like Cobain used to use piano strings. Almost.
Yeah. All the newer the group notes get, the more they get the roar from technology.
So part of it was just that, like when you hit those things, it was such a full sound. It just seared it cut.
And he had developed a certain attack by playing the bass, and everything was fresh and new to him, and we were in a hurry.
Yeah.
So he loved the pretty things, the Stones, the Who, Jimi Hendrix. And then I would come over and feed him drugs and say, well, listen to this Bedouin medicine chant. Listen to Ravi Shankar. Listen to this John Coltrane. And he was very open. He would listen to it and enjoy it. And enough of that seeped in that I think his big achievement on the guitar was when he realized, by chance sometimes while he was playing, there were certain positions where the guitar talked.
Right.
It wasn't about him expressing himself by controlling a tool.
Right.
It was the guitar started talking, the amp started talking. There were chants, overtones that sounded... It was sort of like instant karma, like an instant American example of what took Indians 2,500 years to develop.
Right, he just, everything, you become the groove almost.
Yeah, sort of like, and because of the electricity in those giant amps.
Right.
Sort of a takeoff on, like, God, that Professor Bloom that doesn't like modern
Harold Bloom?
Yeah, Harold Bloom, when he writes the thing about the kid sitting, listening to Michael Jackson, and it's 3,000 years of civilization have been distilled into this kid's ears through this neurotic tool. There's something to that.
Sure.
Well,
that's the magic of music.
Yeah.
I mean, because even thinking about it now, like, I Want to Be Your Dog is like, it's not like really a hook. It's just a push.
Yeah.
And it's sort of just like, once you get the hypnotic element going,
he had the riff and he had the hypnosis.
Right.
And I think it helped too that, those fellas lost their dad when they were young.
Yeah.
They were 14 and 15 respectively, and they went into a trance.
Right.
And they stopped going to school, and they stopped living in the daytime. They switched to night times. And I think the trance in their music was a welcome retreat for them emotionally. And I would take little bits, like on I Want to Be Your Dog, my big contribution was, I thought, well, it can't just be, at first it was just that riff over and over, and we'd go and play that at high school, and I'd sing whatever came into my head every night.
Right. And so you just had the riff.
Yeah, and then I came up with, instead of da 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 da, then it goes da 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 da.
Yeah.
I was trying to write jingles. Basically, I liked
hooks, right?
Double your pleasure, double your fun. That's what I was hearing. Little. I couldn't write.
Right.
I couldn't really do the Ronettes yet.
So you wanted the lyrics to be as simple as possible.
Yeah, and I tried. I had loved Soupy Sales when I was a kid, and he had the thing, now kids, when it's your birthday, you just write to Soupy or send me a letter, but remember, make it 25 words or less. 25 words or less.
And then you ended up playing with his sons on 2 records, right?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I just talked to Hunt in Austin.
Wow.
I tracked him down, man.
How's he doing?
He's all right.
Cool.
He's hanging in. He's pretty sober, and he's got a band going. He's got a new baby, and
all right, cool.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah. Soupy Sales, amazing talent.
Yeah.
And he was deep into R&B, so his kids became really knowledgeable and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I guess Hunt used to just hang out. He wouldn't go to school, and and I guess his old man, they had split up, and he was living in New York, and he was just hanging out at Manny's Music.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah. Oh, he knew when he was 16. I mean, they were young when they played on what was the first album? I guess you did Lust for Life with them. But did you play with them before?
They were in Tony and the Tiger. You remember that?
No.
When I started out in the Stooges, I would go to these
that's right.
I would go to 16 magazine
Right.
to let them take my picture or something, and you'd read about Tony and the Tigers.
And that
you
was
know?
them.
Yeah,
that was Tony Sales,
yeah,
and they're
yeah.
a little kid band, a pop band.
Yeah, they're a
That's
little
right.
pop
That's
band.
right.
You
And
know,
then-
just like Dino, Desi, and Billy.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
Right, and then he ended up playing with Rundgren when he was like 17 or something.
And the other one, these all, by the way, all these people lived in the same neighborhood. It's that flat part of Beverly Hills between Sunset and Santa Monica there.
Yeah.
And there was also the Partridge Kids
Right.
lived there. I knew them too.
You did? You knew them?
Yeah, and they had their Sean Cassidy
And
the other
David.
David, yeah.
You
And
knew
they
them
would
when-
all any respectable family from that neighborhood. When the kid got to a certain age, they say, "Okay, do you want to have a rock band? You know, call Moisey the agent, and we know a guy over here at ABC Records, and we'll set you up, get you boys some nice equipment,
Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
So you knew
know?
those guys, what, in 69 when you were out here? In 70?
No,
Or?
I never. No, the only people I met out here when I came the first time in 1970.
Let's tie that up though. So you do the record with John Cale, the first record in
Yeah.
New York. You go back to Ann Arbor. Nico
Right.
hangs out with you guys
Right.
and fucks all you guys, and then right.
No, just me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And then you got a deal to come out here.
Well, no, and then it was time for our second record, which is like a few months later. They say, "Where's the next record?"
Right.
And so this time the idea was to record it out here, and we had been developing material. That was our culture. We play 3 or 4 times a week and rehearse 3 or 4 times a week, and I'd write and they'd write, and we'd develop stuff. We'd play the new songs at the high school, you know. So we had all these.
I'd love to talk to some of the kids in that audience, like what it was like for them. Did you find that you went over mostly, or kinda, or were people looking at you with confused looks? Or
The kids, about half of the little kids were either fascinated or they really liked us.
Right.
The fascinated ones, I don't know what they thought, but it was like,
what is
you know.
happening?
Then when it got beyond little kids, those people didn't like us. The
Right.
ones that were going to run the new counterculture, they were threatened.
Well, you and them have been fighting for centuries.
Yeah, this is it. Exactly, right. This is true.
Yeah.
It's like the Serbs and Muslims or something.
The ruling class and the radicals.
But we went out to L.A. and we stayed in the Tropicana Motel
With Duke's coffee shop downstairs?
And we were at the same time exactly that Andy Warhol and Paul Morrissey came out to film Heat with Joe D'Alessandro and Jane Forth and Ed Sanders from the Fugs.
Yep.
You know, Kill for Peace.
Sure.
And all. He was writing the book The Family.
Yeah, I
about
got it.
Manson.
Did you read that thing?
Yeah, it's a damn good read.
One, right?
Yeah.
The best part is when they're out in the desert.
And there was a place near the motel called Bowser Boutique, and I bought this dog collar. So I thought I was walking by, I'd look cool in that, you know. And then Sanders would give me these dirty looks and say, "You don't know what that means, do you? You know, you think that's cool, don't you? You know, and all this weird stuff." But we would stay in there and we'd walk. The Electra Studios were just a block down on La Cienega off Santa Monica, and we'd walk there with our little guitars and do one song each day.
This was the Funhouse record?
The Funhouse record, and my sightings at that time were I was groupied by the GTOs.
Yeah.
En masse, you know. They were all like, you know, try to, we'll all do you if you want, you know, whatever. I used to go to the drive. I saw Superfly with Miss Christine.
Oh,
at the there used to be a great drive-in movie down from the farmer's market.
Oh, really? On Beverly?
Yeah, off Beverly. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Uh-huh.
And my best sighting was one day I walked up the hill to Ben Frank's on Sunset Boulevard.
It's not there anymore.
I know.
It's a Mel's now.
And Frank Zappa was sitting at the counter, like frowning. With a cup of black coffee.
Yeah.
He looked like Frank Zappa, you know, and he had his hair and his mustache and everything were very, very strong, you know. And there he was. I didn't do anything. I was just like, wow, Zappa, Fat Zappa, right? Yeah.
His daughter was just in here last week.
Wow.
Moon.
Wow.
Talking about Frank.
Yeah, he's.
Were you a fan?
I was a big fan.
He took it out there.
Especially of the Freak Out album.
Yeah.
And I knew him. I got to know him years later, and I visited him a couple of times. Didn't know him great, but we would sort of talk. Very serious guy.
Yeah.
Very serious. Well, damn, ouch.
Now, what was his story about? Because I had read years ago that was it you or one of the other guys that had developed a relationship with one of the Three Stooges?
That's Ron Ashton. Ron was obsessed with the Three Stooges.
But you didn't name yourself after the Stooges.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, Ron. It was Ron's idea. One night we were all taking LSD, and I was saying, "Come on, we got to get something done." So it said it, and let's think of a name for our band. So we came up with he said, "I know." I said, "Something psychedelic." Because that's what was going around.
So this is 69?
Yeah, 67.
67,
this was. And he said, "I know. We'll call ourselves the Psychedelic Stooges."
Yeah.
And
that's where it started?
Yeah, it was an homage, and also his concept was that because he felt we were like the Stooges in that we're never doing anything wrong, but everybody's always upset with us.
Right.
A little disingenuous on his part, I thought, but that was his idea, and that was good naming, and I thought it was. I think years later he used to visit Larry in the old Stooges home here or whatever. They have some sort of a place.
For a motion picture.
Yeah.
Retirement home.
And apparently he was like bringing him cigars and whiskey. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. Things
That's
like,
sweet.
"Hey, Larry, here. Hey, kid, could you get me some? Yeah, it was
he
like that. He
must have loved it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you do the 3 albums and the Stooges albums, and then so you're doing a lot of acid.
Yeah.
And then did you get strung out on other shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did that start?
I had to calm down.
When did that start?
Well, it all started entering the Detroit area, and it entered America in a big way in 1970.
Yeah.
That year. And when I went back home, all of a sudden there it was around everywhere, and unfortunately there was a guy.
It's always that guy.
Yeah, now deceased.
Yeah.
Who had been. This is typical too. When you're really low down the totem pole in a group.
Yeah.
There comes a day when somebody in the group realizes, "Hey, we're going to look like fools if we just walk out there and set up our own equipment. We need like a roadie."
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any money to pay it.
Well, can't we just find like a guy who hangs around and he wants to be cool and he's not doing anything?
Yeah.
And that's the guy later there's reasons that people are hanging around and want to be cool and aren't doing anything.
Right.
So this guy was a guy like that.
Yeah.
And he had lived in the house for a while, and he was a reformed junkie. We hadn't known that. We didn't even know what that stuff was.
Right.
And then at some point, we had a manager who was into health foods, and his real ambition was to become an executive in the health food industry, which he since has. And he lives in Irvine.
Right.
Jimmy Silver. He was the good fairy around the group.
Right.
Kind of kept
the conscience?
us. Yes, a conscience.
Right.
Here, have some clean brown rice.
Right.
Hey, you guys should do this. And, moderated our ill. And when he was gone, and suddenly at the same time, a lot of bikers, a lot of strange guys with strange accents from strange towns were around Detroit and Ann Arbor with this stuff. And so the guy, our live-in roadie guy, fake roadie, sort of said, "Hey, I'm going to get back into this. This is cool."
Yeah.
By that time we had some really more professional roadies.
Yeah.
We used to get them when they'd come back from Vietnam.
Yeah.
We'd think,
Those
perfect
guys,
resume, right?
Yeah.
You drive a tank, shoot a gun, you can run a Stooges gig,
Yeah.
So those guys weren't as bad, but this one guy was, and he started giving it to me and giving it to this one and giving it to that one, and at first it was just disgusting how you feel, and it's just
puking,
so horrible.
And sweating.
You think I'll never do this again.
Yeah.
And then one night your nerves are shot.
Yeah.
And you say, "Oh,
need a bump."
Okay, yeah. And down you go.
Yeah.
And that became something to wrestle with. That started late 70, early 71 for me. And I think the last time I ever messed with that, it took about 10 years. I never joined, I
Hey,
never said
yeah.
Jesus.
Right.
Nah.
Jesus, this is Iggy.
Yeah, right. Nah, I just sort of gradually, my tastes moved in other directions, and for that reason, it took a long time, but I'm a lot more solid.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to a meeting and
Right.
find God to,
Right.
I just am the way I am.
But it was a fight, though.
It kept coming back, and if it wasn't that, it would be like 10 bottles of wine or a bunch of pills or a bunch of coke or methadone or silly little weird shit.
But this was during the prime time of when
of my career.
Yeah.
I did a lot of good stuff under the influence. Listen, I know.
Did that fuck with you? I mean, were you like, was that part of the wrestling, which was like, yeah, but man, I mean, when I went out there, when I was high, and then I fucking did that, and everyone remembers that, maybe I need that shit.
Get the other people out. Get them the fuck out. When you want to do something creative, the others are not your friends. The world is not rooting for you. They don't agree. They poo-poo. They see you up. They will pull you down unless you create through artifice an arranged introduction to what you do that allows them to support you, and that's the knack of that's showbiz, baby. But otherwise, sometimes you need something to just get the effing crap noise out of here. I don't care who is the fucking president. I don't care. I don't even care. It's not even, the country doesn't even exist anyway.
So the complete freedom.
Or, whatever it is. To concentrate, because you want to concentrate on. I think that's all it ever did for me. Unfortunately, it also. What's the word? Beyond vulgarity,
transgression, crass, decadence.
It adds a little crass. Things get a bit crass. I'll tell it like it is. Yeah, man.
Yeah, there's no limits.
Yeah, right.
When there's no limits, you're going to find yourself in some weird places.
Yes, this is it. So,
but at that point, okay, so the Stooges and your drugs, and you've defined yourself as this, this kind of singular rock and roll entity. When did the relationship? Was that when the relationship with Bowie started?
He had voiced his interest in the group and the songs. In the late 60s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He saw you in New York?
There was just a little blurb. Yeah. I think he had been over maybe it was when he toured America with his little acoustic guitar.
Before Ziggy.
And there was something, anyway, in an American music publication saying, it was one of these, David Bowie, who's your favorite? Well, I like the Stooges, especially No Fun. Someone showed it to me.
Yeah.
You may know this guy, Danny Fields. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah,
okay, so Danny showed me that. He was the publicist at Elektra. Here's some guys listening to you. And that was that, and I thought nothing of it, but I was grateful that somebody in England knew our music.
Yeah.
And then with a couple of years later, we were Elektra sort of gave me Jack Holtzman, who was a very cool guy. Gave me like the low budget equivalent of the gold watch. He gave me a nice Nikon camera. It said, nice try, kid. You need a rest. We don't really hear any potential in your newer songs, and
so that was it. That was after what, 3 records or 4 records?
After 2 records.
2 records,
and then basically at the same time, an organization called Main Man was in town, making connections based around a launch of David Bowie's career. They were meeting people mostly in the back room of Max's Kansas City. which was a chickpea and steakhouse on Union Square where the Warhol people used to eat for free.
Okay.
Because that was what you could, if you were a Warhol star, you could get a hamburger.
Right.
No, right, I'll buy you a hamburger if I really have to, you know. How much does that cost?
You know,
Were they all like that?
he was.
Okay.
He was very like that. He was like, you know, yeah, he would say things to me like, "My, you swim well." That was a great line. "My, you swim well." He would suggest. He had one suggestion I've never instituted, but he said, "Why don't you just read the newspaper into the microphone, and that will be your songs, and you can write lots of them that way." That was his idea.
Never followed up on that one?
No, but I kind of, you know.
Why not?
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
You know,
You get to a certain point.
fair enough,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, they were all eating their hamburgers back there with these little, they had these little manila paper Andy credit cards, and you were somebody if you had one of those cards.
Somebody
like, look who I am, you know.
Below 14th Street, you were somebody.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they were all hanging around there, and Danny, I was crashing at Danny's house thinking about my next move, and a man named Steve Paul, who was flogging the Winter Brothers at the time. He managed the Winter Brothers. He had something called Blue Sky Records.
Edgar and Johnny.
Yeah, he was talking to me about
Yeah.
doing something. He wanted, like everybody else, he wanted me, get rid of those dirty stooges and we'll get you with a nice guitar player.
Yeah,
and, you know,
yeah.
and I didn't feel, I thought that was going to amount to identity theft. I had a
Right.
feeling I couldn't survive that at the time.
Well, you guys
know?
were an organic unit.
Yeah, and I was who I was through them.
Right.
You know? It
And also,
wasn't
you're pretty fragile in a weird way, right? I mean,
Yes.
because there, one thing about you that has always come through is this strange anarchic vulnerability.
Well, this is true.
Yeah. So,
I
like,
know.
the idea of you being pulled away from your drive shaft. I mean, who the hell knows what would have happened, right?
I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
I'm
somebody
a-
better take care of that guy.
I'm a little bit like Big Bird or something, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, they were around, and they made a pitch, you know, and it sounded good to me. And I thought, well, their pitch was the same pitch, you know, get rid of the Dirty Stooges. But these people, I could tell, were people who would respect me as an artist on
Right.
a certain level, whereas Steve would just get a sign your life away, and then he'd get a whip and flog me to death on the blues circuit until I dropped dead, you know, or went cross-eyed.
So you have
know.
that old school mentality
Yeah,
where you're just
yeah,
going to
yeah.
put me out there and run me down.
That's what it would
Yeah.
have been, you know. So I thought, well, I think these artiste people are a better fit,
Yeah.
better fit, you know. So kind of went that way,
Yeah.
you know, and
So you and Bowie worked on the last Stooges album?
well, not really. No, that was all. He was ready to do that, but the new Stooge Williamson wouldn't have been comfortable. I wouldn't have been comfortable
With Bowie around?
with him doing that. We had a little meeting about it in a cafe, and
You and James?
no, me and Bowie.
Yeah.
We sat there with like some sugar cubes and tea.
Yeah.
And he says, "So do you want me to produce this?" And I said, "No, thanks, because I have a particular thing," which is true. Even before I met him, I already knew what Mach 3. I could hear it in my head.
Yeah.
So this was something I had to do. He's really talented and energetic, and what would have happened was if he'd come in, he would have had 3 great songs for us
Yeah.
that would have defined us, and we never would have found our own personality. We would have become Mata Hoople.
Right.
And even if he didn't push
Right.
that, what
Yeah.
would have happened would have been the record company would have said, "We don't want songs by these guys. Get that great guy to write. We want that song.
Yeah, the nice songs.
That's
Yeah,
And they're very good songs, you
Sure.
know." So we did our own thing, and then what happened was, toward the end of it, I became unsound. And I started getting
at the end of Raw Power?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
started getting deranged. I'm not qualified to mix a record. I kept trying to mix it, and no matter what I did, it didn't sound evil and scratchy enough, and like it was going to blow things up. I would carrying it around America. I went on a radio show in Detroit, and I thought maybe I should wait. Well, I'll play you these unmixed tapes, or maybe if I strip naked, I'll have a flash, an insight. So I stripped naked, and the DJ is telling me that Iggy is naked in the studio now, and they were afraid that they'd lose their license. So eventually the main man just said, David will remix the record.
We've decided.
Yeah, we've decided. And at that point, I was brought to ground. I was tired. I said, you know what? Okay. And so the three of us, he and I and Williamson, went into a little, it was either Western, I think it was Western Recorders, one of the old school Elvis-y studios. Elvis, one of those old chestnut studios on Sunset, and we in Hollywood with an old board. Yeah. And we mixed it, and it sounded great in the studio, and it still sounds great. There's a lot of treble. They put the voice way up, which was embarrassing, but on the other hand, that makes it, because you can really hear the words and the personality, and I wouldn't have done that. I did a remix of it for Knuckleheads later, because the band hated it, and I kind of hated it because it didn't.
What, Bowie's mix?
Yeah, because it didn't have the big old kazoo buzz. It didn't have the big bass and all this. But on the other hand, I came to realize later it really didn't need that shit.
Right.
He did a good mix.
But doesn't Rollins have a mix of yours?
Well, no. Rollins found the tapes again later, and so he wanted to mix them, and I said, no, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
And I did the loudest mix ever done of Raw Power. The loudest record anyone's ever made. But because I wanted to get it, at that time, there was all these guys lifting weights and listening to nu metal, right? And they couldn't hear us because we didn't sound loud enough. Right. And that's how stupid this is. And so there's a lot of stupid people out here who are ready to listen to our music. Yeah. Well, and I know just what to do, and I just turn it up and turn it. So I did that.
And the Berlin period there, so you were out of your mind, and you went, and then you recorded with David the 2 records.
I sort of ended. I became a colorful semi-person here around the streets of Hollywood. Yeah, basically.
There's Iggy.
Yeah, but there were a lot of people. It's funny. A lot of the Higgs, the huge industry giants. Yeah, they wanted to meet me because those guys, once they get to a certain point, they realize, geez, it's like a million guys who can play and sing just like me, and they get interested in what does this all mean? What's the angle? What's the personality? So they would want to meet me and see if they could pick something out.
Yeah. So how do we fit this guy into a box?
I was hanging around with Danny Hutton and Brian Wilson and Alice Cooper and all these, Hollywood.
But did you feel like you'd been spat out, or you'd had your time, or you were wandering or lost? Or
I felt all I was trying to do was always keep making art. Yeah. And that's why we did this Kill City album where
James Williamson, that's great.
Yeah,
great.
He thought it was a demo. I thought I was making hot. If I'd sung it as a demo, I would have sung something about your lovely, beautiful loveliness. And fuck that, And I'm singing, I'm basically saying early Elroy on that. It's noir. Yeah. I sang about how I found this place, and some of the things I expressed came out later in the rap stuff, the LA rap stuff. Yeah. And so I just kept trying to make some kind of art, and I would, from time to time, I would try these demo sessions with Bowie, but they would mostly be too out there, and then all of a sudden a couple of the ideas started to click. And he said, well, he was going on a long tour. He needed a buddy who could hang. Yeah. His last buddy had gone Hollywood. Yeah. And he wasn't comfortable, so he was looking for somebody different. And also, he had production talent and a production company. Right. So he was looking for, it was okay for him to do something for me. And he made a very informal proposition, and I thought, well, heard some demos and I was on them and I thought, ooh, I sound good.
Yeah.
This is a whole other thing to do. I thought we'd burned out the Stooges thing. At the time, the New York Dolls were writing more clever songs and they were cuter and looked more like established pop stars.
Right.
And I thought, we've done what we're going to do for a while.
Right.
That's what I thought.
And then that's when you guys did The Idiot?
We did The Idiot and then toured that and then very quickly did Lust for Life.
Yeah, those are fucking amazing.
Those two are amazing.
Are you proud of them?
I'm extremely proud of those two records. Yes, I am. Yeah.
And we didn't really cover. How did James Williamson come into the mix with you? I mean, where'd you meet him?
Well, he had been in a group called The Chosen Few with Ron Ashton and a guy named Scott Richardson who was in SRC later, and an area singer.
Yeah.
And these were guys,
Michigan guys.
Yeah, these are a different kind of Michigan guys in the MC5. These guys were more from a more upscale bedroom community and without much parental supervision. And their thing was like to drive out to the airport and pretend that they were a British rock band that had just flown in and try to pick up girls. Right? It was more like that, right?
Yeah, they had a scam, a hustle.
Yeah, they had a hustle.
Right?
Yeah. So James was more like that, and he'd done a little reform school time, and so I had heard, hey, there's a guy around who's a hot guitar player. So that was basically,
James.
Yeah.
And now he's back with you, which is a great story because he went out and built a life in the tech industry. And
yes, he did.
And you went and got him for the new Stooges.
Yeah. Well, it happened to coincide that they gave him they farmed him out about the same time that Ron had passed away, and I thought, well, what should I do next? I want to do my own stuff sometime. Yeah. But at that time, 3 years ago, I thought I should try to do a good job of finishing up the group. There's part of it is like, in one real corny way, I think of myself as kind of like George Washington. Yeah. Yeah, like for this group. I founded this thing, and then there's been a lot of complaints about my early leadership. So, yeah, right.
Second chance.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have the second chance here. Everybody gets to make money. Yeah. Everybody gets to buy a house and then make your own mistakes. Right. So whatever you want to do, but the music has been brought up into the light, played properly, that sort of thing. So I thought, well, let's get Williamson and do this.
And it's great. And then didn't he cut his chops on a Stooges cover band? Didn't he learn all the songs? Like I read some piece somewhere.
Oh well, it helped him as he was rehearsing up the stuff. It's really hard to rehearse heavy rock all alone. Right. Like if you're John Fahey, you can rehearse your stuff all alone, in a room like this. Yeah. So there was a band up in San Jose that knew all our stuff, and he'd play in a bar on the weekends with them. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, because we don't have a lot of time, I just, the solo career. I mean, you've done, amazing. All of it is amazing. Every few years, every record, you bring yourself to it. And one of the questions, because I don't want to disregard all that stuff, because it's some of my favorite records. But in the sense that we don't have time. But like my question is, as a guy who writes all his own songs, when you're doing music, I mean, I have to assume that it's a collaborative effort for you to get the sound you want because you're bringing in songs and then you deal with any number of musicians. How does the sound come?
This is it. Well, it's different with every bunch. Like let's say you do Don Was. Yeah. You've got a bunch of songs, and the way I play them, it just sounds like some kid in 8th grade, right? Right. But the song forms are there. Right. And then he just had what they called a Rolodex at the time in 1990. And the next thing you know, you've got, the Stones bass player, John Cougar Mellencamp's drummer, and then David Mansfield. So you get all these like really expensive guys, and they just come in and they pee all over your record and play the way they're gonna. And for me, I come in and do that, and they're amazing. And then I need to go to Mexico for a year and just calm down because, it's this sort of American perfectionism. Sure. It's great and everything, but it's coming from a different place.
Well, who are your favorite producers?
But when I listen back, I have to admit, the way I like to listen to my music the best is I'm hanging around somewhere and it sneaks up on me. Like I hear something coming from a bar while I'm walking down the street. I say, "Who's that?" That's you. Because I don't hear that well. My ears are blown. Is it me? Really? That sounds good. And that'll be like Candy. I say, wow, those guys can really play. But at the time, I'm really oversensitive. I'm like, you don't get in my way, and you LA guys just think you're all so effing cool, and you've got your big boxes full of fancy instruments, and it's sort of like that. And then with some other things, like I'll bring in like a guy like Whitey, who's totally salt of the earth, and then the producer will be scared of him. Hey, that's just a street kid. And that's the idea.
Right, he's your buffer.
Right.
He's going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah, so it just depends. It all depends, and honestly...
And they all know you, though. I mean, they're trying to honor you.
They are trying in some way or another, usually. And then, but they do have their own agendas.
Right.
But that's okay. It just, everything varies. Sometimes now I do guest work and I just work to track.
Yeah.
They send me a track and I say, okay, either they ask me to write to it or just to sing something. I'll say, okay, I can do that. And I do it by myself,
And working with Mike Watt, who's like the legend.
Yeah.
That must be pretty amazing.
Well, he's deranged, but he's a very, very uniquely dedicated person. And the great thing about him is his constancy, and he has been there for us. He's been there solid for us for over 10 years now. Well, and he is a hard worker, and he's a salt of the earth. He really is.
That's cool, man. And the new record's great, Ready to Die, right?
Yeah,
the new
Ready to Die.
The weirdness was great, and I love Preliminaires. I love that record.
Well, thank you. I enjoy the French stuff, and I did a follow up to Preliminaire that you can't even get in America, called Après.
Okay, well,
sounds like a perfume, doesn't it? It sounds like. But I just did. That's just 5 French torch songs, and then I did 5 songs like that Sinatra would have done in his bel canto.
So you're kind of pushing it, man.
I just wanted to do something different. I even sang Michelle by the Beatles.
Oh, I got to get that now.
I'll send you one.
All right.
So
well, it's been a fucking honor, man.
Hey, terrific.
I'm so thrilled that you did this shirtless.
Fucking cool.
That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. I did all that I could in the time that I had. It was a real honor to have Iggy. It's a real honor to have you people listening. It's very exciting that this is the 400th episode. I don't know what to say. I had no idea we would all be where we are now. I don't mean to be effusive with gratitude, but the fact that I'm experiencing gratitude is a good thing because sometimes I blow right by it. But thank you for listening. I'm not going to do plugs here at the end. I'm not going to... Well, you can go to WTFpod.com and do whatever you're going to do. I'm in New York. Cheech and Chong is on Thursday. It's a big week. That was amazing. Iggy Pop and Cheech and Chong in 1 week. Amazing. Boomer lives.
I didn't really see all of the other...
It doesn't sound like you watch...
I don't watch
You don't watch your own movies? You catch bits and pieces?
I know.
What do you walk by the den where your kid's watching television like, I was in that. How am I doing? I gotta go.
How am I doing? You did 17 years ago. How am I doing? You're all right.
The Actors Gang was like the Clash of theater companies.
Right.
It was politically active, and there was a point to it.
Were you politically active?
Not so much, but I wanted to be.
Marin. She works with autistic kids and she makes $1.
Yeah.
She's the greatest person you will ever know. She's the best. She's the best person in the world.
Okay.
I love her.
You're going to make me cry.
Oh, my God.
I'm not supposed to cry.
You got to imagine, what would it be like for you?
Yeah.
What's your first wife's name?
Kim.
Kim.
Yeah.
What would it be like for you if every time you left up your house, every day, for the rest of your life, between 5 and 10 people, between the time you left your house and got back home, came up to you and said, "Hey, how's Kim? You talked to Kim lately?" "Oh, yeah, I remember you were with Kim."